afternoon and welcome to another edition of Northport, A View from Here. My name is Gene Matthews and I'll be your host today. With us today is Commissioner Joe Fink as our guest, and good afternoon, Commissioner Fink. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Matthews. Long friend.
Long friend, yes, indeed. When we have our guests on, we usually give them the first few minutes to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background. For all the new people moving into Northport, there are those that, believe it or not, haven't seen and heard from you before.
Well, then for those people, I'm a 36-year resident of the city of Northport. I moved to Northport when I was 15. I'm from Michigan originally, the Ann Arbor and Plymouth area. And actually, the first Northporter I ever met was your father, Art Matthews. He sold the home that I live in to my parents back in 1968.
Oh, things go around in circles, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, well, that was a long time ago.
Yes, sir.
Very long time ago. And I remember your dad coming into our office and talking with my dad, and they were pretty good friends at that
Yes,
that
they were.
stage of their lives.
Your father was one of the reasons that we moved to Northport. He had typified what was best with Northport.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Joe, being a 36-year resident,
Yes, sir.
Of Northport, what's the biggest change that you have seen, obvious as it may seem, but what are some of the biggest changes you have seen?
It's the growth, Gene. I look at it and I can't believe what has occurred in the city of Northport over that length of time. When I moved to Northport, 41 was a 4-lane road. There were no lights, basically we had Winn-Dixie.
It's a 2-lane road.
Well, that's, what did I say, 4-lane?
Yes.
Oh, no. It was a 2-lane road, you're right. All the way from Jacaranda Boulevard, Shamrock to Harbor in Port Charlotte, 2-lane road. And there were no lights, there was a Winn-Dixie, and that was it, basically. And so the growth. I just can't believe all of these things are happening to Northport. We're coming into our own now.
Yeah, it's for myself. I mean, it's for a bit of reminiscing. We were 2 lanes, and I remember in the summertime. I'm here 32 years. In the summertime you could drive from Northport to Venice and never pass a car.
Absolutely.
And now you can't go 5 feet without passing a car.
That's right. And what is now part of the city of Northport, the Thomas Ranch, was just vacant area. You seldom passed a car in those days in the summer.
That's right. All they did was grow watermelons at that
That's
time.
right.
Yeah. What about from an educational standpoint? What do you see as the biggest changes there?
Well, I look at it and I say, boy, am I glad we've got schools in town. I see, well, as a person that works for the school district as a substitute teacher on a regular basis with, usually I substitute at Heron Creek Middle. It's gratifying, very gratifying, that we have all educational levels in the city of Northport and that our children don't have to be bussed out of town anymore.
Yeah.
It's fabulous.
Again, it's difficult not to reminisce and think back.
I rode on that bus too, Gene.
To Englewood Elementary School, then to Garden, then to Lemon Bay for junior high, and then Venice High for high school, and it was quite, our kids really were disenfranchised from the education system here during those early 70s.
Absolutely, and you know, this is allowing them to have their own identity, and it's really quite a culmination of a dream.
Yeah, I was at the graduation last night, the first graduation
Yes.
at Northport High School, and it was quite an event, and
Sure.
I was very pleased I was there. How long have you been a commissioner now?
I've been a commissioner since November of 1996.
Okay. And what do you think that in those, what was it, almost 8 years?
Yes.
Has been your greatest accomplishment?
Well,
And if you have more than one, feel free.
I would have to say that it has to be, Gene, the way that we work together with the school district in securing a school for the city of Northport. When I went in, I noted that there were still 28 busloads of kids leaving that school, leaving the town every day to go to VAMS and to Venice High School. And I said, if one person is not being served, then none of us are. And the rest of the city commission picked it up, and the school district said, well, you're you don't need a new school until 2011. And we showed them the figures, and it was such a nice interaction between those two governments. It was marvelous, and I think that has to be the biggest achievement that I believe that we did, the collaborative effort to work together to get that high school and to put together the Performing Arts Center as well.
You know, that certainly was a milestone, especially that Performing Arts Center and getting education within the city. When you hear 28 buses, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you multiply that by 70 kids per bus, you're ending up at 1,400 children going out of town every day.
Absolutely, and right now, the middle school, it's not been open a year. There are 21 portable units on the backside. The high school has, I believe, 30 portables on the backside of it, and they're getting ready to build a second wing.
Two wings?
Yes.
Two-story wings?
Yeah. So it's just going.
The growth really is phenomenal. What about other things?
I think we've shown that you shouldn't be afraid of growth. We've kept the quality of life issues in the city of Northport. We've been able to not overtax the people. Growth has paid for itself. And again, the quality of life. Your garbage is being picked up. Roads are being maintained. Services are being met. We're adding policemen and firemen on a regular basis, and keeping up with all the issues that make us special.
Yeah. Let's see, you're term limited, right?
Technically.
Technically?
Yeah, the charter is written so it says a full term consists of 4 years, and it says once you've served 2 full 4-year terms, you have to take a hiatus. However, I served 1-year term, a 3-year term, and a 4-year term. So technically, I'm not termed out, but I do understand the intent of the legislation, and I abide by that because I know what the intent of the voters was.
Now, the reason I asked that question is because, having been a former elected official myself, when you're leaving office, there's always something you wanted to do or you didn't quite get it done. Do you have anything in that category?
Yeah, I really do. I wish I could have done something more to foster better relations between Sarasota County and the city of Northport. It's unfortunate that they view us as competitors rather than part of the whole. I mean, you know, I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, you know, PGT is in Venice. Wouldn't it be wonderful if it was in Northport? Well, of course it would. But you know something? I'm glad it's in Sarasota County because it makes Sarasota County, it affords our citizens jobs. It affords taxes at the county level to everyone in the county. And why should I covet what they have? I should be happy and rejoice in what they have. And they should be happy and rejoice in what we have. And remember that everything that's good for us is good for them too.
Yeah. My philosophy is what's good for one is good for the whole.
Yes.
With that, we'll be back in a moment.
Have you seen Northport lately? Take a minute and take a look.
We really do enjoy nature, and we found it all here, right in our own backyard. Love fishing and boating on the Mayaca. You never know what you might see out there. We toured the whole state of Florida and found that Northport had everything that we wanted.
There's a lot of natural beauty, and there's a lot of wildlife here. I love the open spaces, and I love the quiet.
If you're intrigued by what you just saw, pay us a visit, and you'll see a lot more.
Welcome back to Northport, a view from here, and Commissioner Joe Fink. We've talked about things you wanted to do and things you did do, and so on. What's been your proudest moment in being in Northport and serving as a city commissioner?
You know, Gene, it's it's always important with this growth to ensure that you leave something. And I have a 13-year-old stepson, and he's mine. He may be a stepson, but he's mine and always will be. And my biggest fear has always been that he would have to be an apologist for anything that I had done 10 or 15 or 20 years down the road. And I think, well, according to him, I don't have much to worry about. And that's a nice compliment. That's
Certainly
probably
is.
one of the best compliments I've had.
Okay, so that's a proud moment for you that
Yeah.
he can say that he's proud of you
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what you do on the city commission. Let's go to the far end. What's that which, you know, maybe didn't make you so happy or proud?
Well, and again, I have to go back to...
Or disappointing? you know?
Sure, sure. I think not being able to extend the water and the sewer to more people than we did when we bonded several years ago, we were overly cautious on that, and I think that we should have probably taken it probably double or triple of what we did. We were very successful on it, Gene.
Yeah.
And
That's not the first bond issue for the city?
yes,
So,
yeah, we were testing the water. We wanted to make sure that we could do it. We don't, I don't know if most of the viewers know how we do it, but we don't do it to make a profit. What we do is we give it basically at cost to the people. We don't charge them any interest unless they don't pay it off, and if they don't pay it off, they've got 20 years to pay it off on their taxes at 2% simple interest, which is kind of like free money.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, and I think that you're right. I think we need to extend more water and sewer out
Absolutely.
out to the area, especially as they become more intensely developed.
Well, this
Certainly
last...
be a good move.
Yeah, this last year we had issued through the Sarasota County Health Department over 1,700 permits for septics.
For what time period?
1 year.
1 year?
1 year.
Gee,
That's a lot.
that's a lot.
And those are temporary solution.
As a, just as an aside, what is the current population, as best you know it, of Northport today? And what are the sources of that information?
What I hear bandied around is between 40 and 45,000. And we get that from the Beaver Report from up in Gainesville.
And Beaver Report being, I've never heard
That's
of
the
that.
bureau. That's the Bureau of something or other out of. It's a state bureau.
Oh, this comes from the University of Florida.
Yeah, University
Okay.
of Florida Bureau of something or other. But the acronym is Beaver.
Okay.
And that's what we use as our in-between census data figures.
And how official is that number? Because when you look at population, you're looking at federal and state dollars.
Sure.
And the higher the population, the more state dollars and federal dollars you get. I mean, do they are these official numbers that?
That's the ones we use, and that's what the city uses. So I'd say they were fairly officious.
And will that change revenue sharing if that should reach a certain plateau?
It should. It's my understanding that once one of the municipalities is no longer, within a county, is no longer in excess of 50% of all the population, then the formulation for figuring out those revenues changes, and the other municipalities become players as well.
I see. This is a big question.
Okay.
Big question. And what do you see in store for Northport?
Oh my goodness. Well, you know, I couldn't
I mean, there's so many avenues you can go down, from
I could-
commercial to residential to educational.
Well, you know, people wonder why we annexed the Thomas Ranch sometimes. And they didn't understand that what we wanted to do is we wanted to change, and this goes back to your question, it really does. We wanted to change. Originally, General Development, when they set up the city, set it up with 3 or 4% commercial industrial to residential. What we did by annexing that property was we changed the ratio considerably up to 13 to 14% commercial industrial to residential, which means that the tax burden is off the back of the residential taxpayer. It also allows and affords us to have places for these people to work as well as to live. And I think that's what I would really like to see happen in Northport in the future. We've achieved critical mass. We've come to the point. This was the whole point of coming to where we are. People said, well, why do you want all this growth? Well, you can't have things if you don't have a critical mass of population. And when we achieve that, then everything else will come too. Manufacturing, commercial, a wide diversity of various things. And that's what I see. We're becoming a total city so that you don't have to leave that 103 square miles to do anything. You can do anything right in Northport.
Yeah, and I don't think, I agree with you. I don't think many people understood that, that number one, general development planned this as a lot sale development,
Sure.
which with very little taken into city planning. And city planning at that time was archaic at best, nowhere near the comprehensive planning that's done today. And if the city was to stay the way it was, it would ultimately fail because of the, or be overtaxed for the citizens if they did not annex that land and generate more.
And we could have looked at it like Charlotte County has looked at it with eminent domain and condemnation of large areas of those lots. But do you really want government to get into the business of being business people? I don't think that's the job of government, and I frankly think that should be left to professionals and experts in that. As far as government goes, you're exactly right. We are blessed in Northport. We have some of the best planning staff and some of the best directors that I've had the opportunity to meet throughout this state. I mean, Sam Jones is without question one of the premier planners in the state of Florida. Terry Gold is without question one of the finest financial directors of any department in the state of Florida. These people are just top flight. We're very blessed.
How about the commercial development? You know, now that we've added all this commercial property, what is the city's thrust in that direction?
Well, we have an economic development manager, and he is looking and dealing with various leads on these things to bring in, and we don't want, at least I don't personally, I don't believe that we should put all of our eggs in one basket. I would rather see 3 or 4 or 5 substantial sized corporations come into the city of Northport rather than a really, really big one, because if that big one goes bust, you're stuck.
Yeah, and they do go bust, don't they?
They certainly
or
do.
Or they pull up and move somewhere else, or outsource it in some other way.
Absolutely.
And how about in the field of education? What do you want to see in Northport?
Oh, well, you know, now that we've got Goshen College there, we surround the existing campus of Manatee Community College and the University of South Florida Extension. Truthfully, I'm just waiting for them to annex into the city. Statute is very clear that without any taxes involved, all they have to do is ask, and they can come right in and be part of the city of Northport, which I think is a logical thing. We are at the cutting edge with a workforce where everybody's sons and daughters, and it's fabulous.
Yeah, it'd be nice to keep educate our kids here and keep them here.
And keep them here,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, we'll be back in a moment. Thank you.
There's a rumor that small-town America has all but disappeared.
Life is great, Northport.
Northport is the last Mohican. This is the place. This is going to be the last undeveloped region. The city government itself is so pro-growth, and it's just like everything is in the right place at the right time for Northport. They're very open-minded, they're very honest, and they're very fair.
Disappeared? You've just seen evidence to the contrary. We call it Northport.
Welcome back to the final segment of Northport, A View from Here. During your tenure on the City Commission, what are some of the turning points that you have seen for maybe yourself personally as well as for the city?
Oh, if I were to suggest any turning points, I'd say they'd have to deal with mostly the big issues that we've dealt with, whether or not we wanted to do those annexations. That was probably the biggest turning point, realizing that a change had to be met and that we would have to do it. I don't think we expected the county to react the way they did, but I think that was the culmination of probably everything, of everyone realizing, hey, these people are actually going to do what they've been empowered to do by the state of Florida to do. There have been others, but nothing quite so dramatic.
Yeah, that would be major. With the annexation and, of course, with the growth, are we keeping pace with the required planning staff and building staff?
Well, you know, it's funny, Gene, because you look at things and you say, well, why do we do things the way we do in Northport? In Northport, the turnover rate for going in and getting your home approved and permitted is between 5 and 10 days, okay? As I understand it, in the other agencies in the area, we're talking generally probably 2-3 months, okay? We do this with a staff of just over 30 planners and permitting department. Sarasota County doing basically about half of what we do, about the same amount of permitting that we do, has a staff of just under 300 to do the same amount, but to do it in a very, very long time frame. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't understand that. Our staff works hard, exceptionally hard, but we ask them at regular intervals, is staffing appropriate? And they said they'd rather be busy and just keep it up.
Day goes by a lot faster.
Absolutely.
And the other thing, of course, people say that, oh, you're adding more people over there, but isn't that an enterprise account?
Absolutely. It is paid for by the permitting fees. There's no cost to the taxpayers on that. Our staff believes that we need to keep a firm grip on that so that during fallow times, and it will come, we will not be the growth engine forever. And when that stops, we're going to need to have the cushion to make sure that we're able to keep the qualified staff that we have. Mm-hmm. It's a remarkable mix. We don't add in Northport just to add, just because we can. Until this year, when they separated the fire district from the rescue portion of district, you used to pay a larger assessment for your annual fire and rescue fee. Now, fire is paid out of an assessment, rescue is paid with ad valorem. Until this year, we have lowered taxes every year. So growth has indeed paid for growth.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very interesting. Talking about fire department, police department, how are they keeping up with the growth in the city, being as spread out as we are now, and maybe you can even give a little anticipation of what we can look forward to when things start happening on the Thomas Ranch, which I understand is going to be the early 2006.
Yes, and that's what I understand too. I see the city going to a severely zoned department. When you have 103 square miles, you're going to have to do that. We're going to have to deal with a substation. We're going to probably more than one. We're probably going to have specific shifts like we do with fire, patrolling specific areas for police. We're going to have to look at probably taking over the fire station that is in the midst of the Thomas Ranch from the county. And these are all factors that we're going to have to look into. I believe that, again, our personnel, we've just hired a new police chief, and our fire chief is relatively new, and they're very, very qualified gentlemen, and I believe they will lead us right along our way.
I haven't heard any talk of deficit spending, which is, of course, a dirty word in government, but with all the additions we're going through, and we are going through
Sure.
additional personnel, are we able to handle that comfortably? And still
Absolutely.
do the maintenance and purchase of equipment and things that...
Sure. The only thing that we're going to have to look into in the future, we're very comfortable on general fund projects, very comfortable in the fire department at this time, quite comfortable in solid waste, although we are going to have to address what we pick up, because bulk pickup is becoming a slight problem. Road and drainage. The way it was set up originally was every lot in the city of Northport paid the same assessment, whether it was developed or not. That's not logical, because the services increase as lots are developed, but your money never increases unless you raise the assessment on everyone. It's not a logical way to look at things, and we're readdressing that right now to see how we can better serve the citizenry and increase revenues as the city grows.
Okay. Over the course of the 8 years, what's been your interaction with the people, and how has your job changed over those years?
Well, you know, it's funny. You saw earlier today my newest little toy. They've given us all Blackberries. Those are little email machines so that they can keep track and give us all updates on everything, so that we have a small personal computer the size of a Palm Pilot at our disposal.
Is that like being under house arrest? They put a collar on your ankle?
Just about. And the worst thought in mind, I'm sure, for staff is that I'm going to be talking on the telephone, driving the car, and typing on this little small computer all at the same time, instead of pulling off the side of the road, as I always do, of course. When I first started out, we didn't even have email or computers. I was the only commissioner that requested a computer in his office, and we didn't have email, and so all complaints, citizen-generated complaints to commissioners, were handled either verbally or in writing to the city manager's office. Right now what happens is I probably have I'd say somewhere in the neighborhood between 75 and 150 correspondents a day on email, exclusively for the city and for city business. So
it's not a part-time job, is it?
Definitely not. Now, it makes it very difficult to work otherwise, and it does. The school district has been very, very good in allowing me that opportunity. They've been a very, very good employer in allowing me that. Yeah. And they promote me as well on this sort of thing.
And 8 years ago it was substantially less than what it is today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the issues that we deal with, Gene, are just tremendous. You know, I mean, the magnitude of these issues are just, and how they will affect future generations of the city of Northport. You know, we've crossed so many levels in the past few years that everything we do, we have to be so careful, because we don't want it to negatively affect.
With that, we only have a minute or so to go. All this growth and activity, is this going to affect Northport positively or negatively? What's your opinion on that?
I believe it's positive. When my father and mother purchased a house, and your father was the salesperson involved, my parents knew that city of Northport was 60-some square miles in area at that time. They knew it was a huge place, and they understood it was going to grow. They were happy with that, because it allows for the potential that we all deserve as Northporters.
Okay. With that, I want to thank you very much to be our guest today, and
thank you.
We'll see you again next time.